Welcome to another episode of Fantasy News. Is he really wearing shorts right now? Is that just a standard for the show? Never mind. Let's just get into the news. The Fantasy News must flow.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy News. I am your disheveled goblin host, Daniel Greene. Yes, I'm a little bit more disheveled than usual today. I need a haircut, and I wanted to be comfy in my new blue hoodie. Leave me alone. I'm not always going to wear the coat. Today, we have some of the most beautiful book covers I have ever had the pleasure of revealing here on the channel. One in particular I want to start with. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get right on into it. Starting with Blood Scion, a release from Deborah Flay, and wow, does this look outstanding. I'm particularly partial to this style of art and blues and oranges and just brighter covers in general. And in a time when so many covers are so dark, I think this will pop out on the shelf and just look outstanding. And you know, my own book cover is pretty dark composition wise, and I love my book cover for Breach of Peace, but I'm jealous of just like the flair that's so clearly there with this one. And the description of the book reads as: meet Sloane, my 15-year-old walking inferno on a mission to take down the colonizers and reclaim everything that has been stolen from her. Available March 8, 2022. Bam! I'm immediately going to be interested in this. It might be shallow to say, but damn it, a book cover can sell me. I'm literally judging a book by its cover. Fine, I love it. It looks exquisite. But we're gonna go ahead and follow that up with a tweet from Rebellion Publishing, putting this pop filter to the test. They tweeted out and said, "We're so excited to be publishing Penny Vixen's brilliant new book, The Witness for the Dead in the UK. Return to the beautiful world of hashtag the Goblin Emperor." The what? Clan, how did we miss this? This is basic Goblin. Okay. We are the Goblin Clan, and I was unaware of our Emperor. This is not a good look. Anyway, moving on. The book will be released July 22nd, and while this is personally not my favorite style of art, I prefer something a bit more illustrative. I think this is a great execution of this style, especially if this is your taste. I could see people really digging this one. And as always with copies that are being published in the UK, please make it available in the US. A lot of us want to collect. But in the last piece of like physical book news, we're going to talk about Fonda Lee officially retweeted and was thrilled to show us all physical copies of Jade Legacy, the highly anticipated third book in the Greenbone saga, and ooh, that blue looks good. I really enjoy that she's gone with this green to red to blue. I think it'll look nice on shelves, and this is probably my most anticipated release right now for any fantasy series. I want this book. Crime Syndicate fantasy. We need more Crime Syndicate fantasy, please. Why don't I write it? Okay, I might. Okay, but let's go ahead and get away from physical books, and we're gonna talk about animated sci-fi anthologies. I love anthology sci-fi, all the way back since I originally read like Passage to Tomorrow by Robert Heinlein. You don't need to even hit novella length sometimes to really get into these. Short stories are a beautiful part of sci-fi, and I like that we're seeing the things like Love, Death, Robots step up and say, hey, we wanna be a part of this and bring it into the visual medium. Well, Disney Plus is putting its toes into this water with Kazazi Moto Generation Fire to be released on Disney Plus in 2022. The anthology series is developed by rising animation talent from 6 African nations. Its journey into African future with stories inspired by the continent's diverse history and cultures. That sounds so amazing. The fact that we're getting predictions into like a sci-fi Africa future from animators in African countries. Definitely interested to check that on out because I like love seeing just different angles of possibilities of sci-fi futurism, and this seems like it could be something that really hits different. So I'll definitely be keeping my eye out for this one. And in a completely like shallow separate note that's not really related to sci-fi, I also am just slowly becoming a bigger and bigger fan of seeing different like forms of animation and like what you can really do when you just have different teams approaching storytelling from like, oh, what animation style is going to best fit this story? And it seems like this is going to allow animators to do that, like we saw with Love, Death, Robots, and that's so cool. Okay, let's talk about the waves Christopher Paolini has made in the last few days over on Twitter. The author of The Inheritance Cycle, Kaplawi, went ahead and planned out and executed a tweet storm to try and get the inheritance cycle, specifically the hashtag Eragon Remake, trending, and he succeeded. Targeting Disney, he's actually gotten quite a bit of fan engagement trying to get people to hype up the idea of an Eragon Remake. And not only get this trending, there was literally tens of thousands of people using this hashtag and liking and retweeting, trying to get it noticed. And it really warmed my heart. Like, the inheritance cycle is such a valuable series in terms of so many of our introductions into fantasy. It was just amazing to me to see so many people still caring and wanting to see this done right, done justice. And yeah, I genuinely hope he gets his remake. I talked more in depth about what I'd like to see on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/fantasy news, always be plugging. I would personally like to see 4 movies instead of 3, but yeah, this is something I would love to see get done. I have my issues with Disney, as we all know, so I would rather see the rights handed off to another studio. But hey, I just honestly at my core really want to see Christopher Paolini get his way and his wish fulfilled, and hats off to him for executing such a great marketing move. I'm also always like interested in stuff like this, like how many book sales did he see just because it was trending and people got reminded, like, I don't have a set, I could go order one. Like, I imagine there's going to be a significant bump, right? But before we get into the rest of the news, a quick word from today's sponsor. And yes, I literally took one of the Campfire guys hostage. That is actually one of the people in charge of Campfire. Let's go.
So, Jackson, introduce yourself to the Goblin clan.
My name is Jackson Dickard. I work for Campfire Technology. We sell creative writing software for writers. I don't know how.
What is your relationship to the Goblin clan? What is it?
It's professional.
It's professional.
Strictly
yes.
professional.
And what does Campfire offer the Goblins?
Writing software to help you write better stories faster.
Details!
You can make character profiles, timelines, relationship webs. You can write your manuscript all in one place in the cloud, stored, collaborate.
You work for Campfire?
That's correct.
Yes.
That's correct.
Where could they go to find Campfire?
There's a link in the description. That's the only way.
And the pinned comment!
The pinned comments. The only way he's gonna let me out is if enough people sign up to try it.
Good. Now, we're gonna have a conversation. Professional.
Daniel, wait, Daniel, please, we can talk about this. Daniel!
For those of you who have been very interested in Elden Ring, and I hear you in the last episode of Fantasy News, you guys were mad that I not spend more time talking about it. I apologize, I should have, but hey, here's a little update. George R. R. Martin has posted a couple different interviews talking about Elden Ring, and specifically we have one linked down below. One of the interviews I did read though, he specifically mentioned how like he gave them like world building and concept stuff, but he has not really been involved for years. And so it's kind of interesting that like, yeah, he's involved, and a lot of their marketing is about that, but he even saying in the interview was like, I'm excited to see what they did because I have no idea. And in a piece of quickie news, we also had a teaser for Witcher Season 2 drop, and yeski deskies, I'm really hoping this is going to be a step up from Season 1. I didn't hate Season 1, but it was not the full potential I think the Witcher adaptation could have, and I'm hoping, I'm praying Netflix gives this more time in post-production to really fine-tune some of those editing effects that I had such a big problem with in Season 1. Let's do it. Let's make it bigger and better every season. That's the future of The Witcher I hope we see. Okay, let's slow things down here for a second and talk about some iconic pieces of fantasy memorabilia that'll be going on sale here. Yes, the Indiana Jones hat is there, and that is technically a fantasy franchise with some of the supernatural elements at play, but also more hardcore fantasy. It seems the Harry Potter wand, yes, one of the actual wands that Daniel Radcliffe used in filming, will be going up for auction. I wish I had the money to even consider looking at the prices that'll be thrown around for these. But I do find a bit of disrespect here, because these two pieces of iconic memorabilia made the headline. Well, Leonardo's costume from the 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie didn't. Excuse, that's an amazing piece of our childhood and is totally worth being alongside Indiana Jones's hat and the Harry Potter wand. I do want to point out though that if you want to check out this auction, of course, link down below, and one of the people in charge said they do have some pieces of memorabilia that will just be a few $100s. So, you know, if that's in your budget, go take a look. And we had our first look of the Supergirl costume revealed for the upcoming DC adaptation, and I think the costume looks pretty freaking solid. I actually am not really familiar with this character, but I definitely like the textured look of the fabric they're going with here, and they have actually some leaked photos as well of the actress walking about in the costume. And I think actually like casually, without even the digital touch-ups they do for these things, it looks pretty awesome. I saw a couple people commenting like she doesn't look too happy. She's at work. Like, I work my dream job as a YouTuber, yet if you took like a photo of me randomly editing, here's my face. It's not... Actors aren't just happy all the time while they're on set. Being on set, trust me, I've talked to a lot of people about this, can be miserable. So yeah, like, not everyone's gonna be thrilled all the time, and I think she looks totally neutral here. But okay, anyway, let me know what you think of the Supergirl costume in the comments down below, and is it loyal to the character? I'm really not familiar, so I genuinely do not know. And Metroid Dread topped Amazon's pre-order sales charts, and that's kinda to be expected for me. Metroid has been like sitting and simmering within Nintendo's back catalog for quite some time, and I have seen fans begging for a release, especially after that disappointing teaser for a possible Metroid game that was canceled. This seems to be the reworked, new attempt at a Metroid game, and I really do just respect Nintendo being able to scrap a whole game that they were like, no, that one's not up to our standard, and now they're doing a whole other approach at a 2D platformer for Metroid. Impressive. I personally, like, I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not, I prefer the 3D Metroid games, but I'm gonna check this one out because yeah, Metroid is an outstanding character and franchise, and I'm excited to give this a go. I want to do some Twitch streaming from my Nintendo Switch, but I have no idea how I'd set that up. That seems rather difficult. I'll work on it. And I want to talk about this new sci-fi film that's been announced and has been cast called Tomorrow Before After, and it's starring Natalia Reyes and is from writer-director Alfonso Cuijada. I hope I'm saying that right. And the description goes as follows. The film centers on a woman with no name who struggles to survive on her own in a post-apocalyptic world, searching for others, with only a stray dog by her side. Already, doggo in the movie, you got my interest. If you kill that doggo, I will find you. In her quest, she collides with a world that is collapsed and utterly destroyed, and it seems for a long time that she is the only survivor in the world, until she discovers one day that she is pregnant. What? Not understanding how this could be possible, she then begins to question her own existence. I'm partial to doggos in movies. I'm partial to post-apocalyptic movies. I'm partial to like existential dread this seems to be diving into. I'm curious, so Tomorrow Before After, you got me peaked. You got me peak-em. I'm just like annoyed by the fact that like sci-fi movies are genuinely some of the greatest of all time in my opinion that like cinema has ever put out, yet they're constantly snubbed by the Oscars, and in the box office they do not see the level of return I think they deserve. Like Annihilation I think is a wonderful example of that. It was a really good movie in my subjective opinion, and it didn't do super hot. I want to see more sci-fi films like this, and so I'm going to shout them out and support them and try and get more attention for them because I want the sci-fi cinema experience to continue to thrive and live on. But speaking of sci-fi films, Venice Film Festival has officially confirmed that Dune will have its world premiere September 3rd. This movie has had, obviously because of the pandemic, quite the delay and just all kinds of stuff going on around it. I'm actually surprised they haven't had any more major leaks, but I'm really hoping we can finally get to see Denis Villeneuve's latest epic, because man, this guy is my favorite filmmaker working alongside, that's a whole other, I'm not going to get into my favorite filmmakers right now. Okay, let's move on. And in the final story we're going to cover here today, I am aware that there is another scandal dropping for Disney that possibly is in the works. There's just rumblings and bubblings of some bad behavior from the mouse, and I do not like Disney as a company, and I am inclined to believe whenever things like this start to emerge, but it is currently only a rumor, and it's a few accounts tweeting. I'm going to wait to report on something this big and just make sure that I actually see some more substantial evidence come forward, and this wasn't just a fluke. So maybe that'll be in the next fantasy news. I'm sorry I can't bring it to you more aggressively now, but especially when I have a company I'm constantly criticizing, before I bring up another big story, I want to really make sure I, dot my I's and cross my T's and I'm coming correct, because I don't want people to be able to turn around and just show like, oh, you're just jumping the gun to criticize them whenever you can. That's not what I want to do. So keep an eye out for that. Anyway, this has been your latest episode of Fantasy News. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Check out the new Goblin merch you can see down there if it's been long enough, or just photos that are here. Blah, 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 poo, pow, poo. And have a good one, y'all. Peace.
And of course, I'd like to record a special shout out to my latest high tier Patreon, Dustin Carter.